On today's episode, we're going to talk about taking a day trip from Chicago to St. Louis and back on Amtrak. Hello and welcome to the Great Adventurer channel. My name is Mark, aka The Great Adventurer, and on this channel we're going to talk about all things travel, from fantastic destinations and cool things to do, as well as how to get there, from planes and trains to cars and cruise ships. The journey is part of the travel experience, so let's enjoy getting from point A to point B. And then let's enjoy our destination once we're there too. Life is a great adventure. Come and join me. In a recent video, I mentioned locating the train station closest to where you live and taking the train for a day trip or an overnight trip to another destination and back. I also talked about what to do if there isn't a train station near you, or if there aren't trains or train times that are feasible for your origin or destination. One recommendation I had was to possibly visit a larger city like Chicago, New York, or Washington, D.C., which would have multiple trains departing during the course of a day, and then plan a day trip or an overnight trip from one of those origin cities. Today, we're going to discuss one of those options, which is a trip that I did back in 2023, and that's a trip on Amtrak from Chicago to St. Louis and back, all in the same day. The reason for my trip was to visit the St. Louis Gateway Arch, which I'll talk about in this video. But maybe you've already visited the Gateway Arch, or maybe you want to spend longer than a day in St. Louis. If that's you, then fear not. While I will focus on taking a day trip on Amtrak from Chicago to St. Louis and going up into the Gateway Arch, I will also have a list of several suggestions of other things that you can do in St. Louis later in this video, whether you're staying for a day or a longer duration. I will also include links to all of these things in the description as well. Before we begin, if you enjoy the content in this video, I would encourage you to give it a like and leave me a comment letting me know. Your feedback and encouragement in these ways is helpful to me as I work on creating content that I hope that you will find useful. I would appreciate it if you would consider subscribing to my channel so that you can see all of the videos that I want to create. And don't forget to share this with your friends who you think might enjoy this as well. And thank you in advance. Now, before we head down to St. Louis, there are two tickets that you'll need to purchase: your train ticket on Amtrak and your ticket to go up into the Gateway Arch. When you're booking your Amtrak ticket, I would recommend purchasing a ticket as early as possible, and also to purchase a ticket that is fully refundable in case it turns out that the weather is going to be bad on the day of your planned visit. You can always cancel and rebook for another day. For your ticket to go up into the Arch, this is a timed entry ticket, so I would recommend purchasing this ticket 1 to 2 days before your trip once you know that the weather will be good for your visit. When you're purchasing your ticket to go up into the Arch, consider some of the additional options that are available while you're there. For example, if you're visiting St. Louis between March and November, there is an option for a riverboat cruise ride. This is a 1-hour narrated sightseeing cruise tour on the mighty Mississippi River that leaves right from the Gateway Arch National Park, and it takes you right along the riverfront between Illinois and Missouri. You can buy a combo ticket for both, as well as some other cool combo package options, which are available right on the gatewayarch.com website. When you're booking your train ticket on Amtrak, you have a couple of options for taking the train from Chicago to St. Louis. One option would be to depart from Chicago's Union Station, which is in downtown Chicago. Another option would be to depart from the train's first stop, which is in Joliet, Illinois. It's about an hour away from downtown Chicago. The benefits of leaving from Union Station include the fact that it's fairly easily accessible via public transportation, and it may be closer to get to depending on where you're coming from. The downsides to leaving from Union Station include parking, which can be expensive in downtown Chicago, and train times and safety concerns. The train to St. Louis departs downtown Chicago at 7:15 a.m. and returns around 10:43 p.m. This means that if you're taking public transportation, you'll have a couple of blocks of walking in downtown Chicago early in the morning as well as late at night, not to mention rides on public transportation during these times as well. If you were to leave from Joliet, Illinois, there is less expensive parking there, and the train leaves at 8:12 a.m. and gets back around 9:35 p.m. But you will need to have a car to get there, whether that's a personal car or whether you're arriving by Uber or Lyft. When you're booking your Amtrak ticket, your origin station will be either CHI for Chicago's Union Station or JOL for Joliet, Illinois, and your destination will be STL for St. Louis Gateway Station. The train you'll want to be on is the Lincoln Service, and you'll want to leave on the first train in the morning, which is train number 301. Schedules and times may change, but when this video was recorded, that train departs Chicago at 7:15 a.m. or Joliet at 8:12 a.m. and then arrives into St. Louis just after 12 noon. There are multiple trains that go between Chicago and St. Louis during the day, so if you're not trying to do a day trip, you may want to pick a different train with a time that is better suited for your needs. For the day trip, I would recommend a return time that is currently at 5:40 p.m. on train number 306 Lincoln Service. This will get you back into Joliet around 9:35 p.m. or into Chicago around 10:43 p.m. I also want to address one thing fairly early in this video, and that's that if you're doing the day trip and your train is significantly late getting into St. Louis, depending upon how late you're going to be, you have a couple of options. First, if you have enough time to where you can still get to the arch, go up in it, and get back to the train station comfortably before your train leaves for Chicago, my recommendation is to do that. But prioritize being back at the train station at least 30 minutes before the train is scheduled to depart. That's around 5 p.m. if the train leaves Chicago at 5:40 p.m. You certainly don't want to miss your train and have your train depart without you. If you can't make it to the arch or you feel the timing is too tight, then give Amtrak a call immediately at 1-800-USA-RAIL. That's 1-800-872-7245. When you get to an agent, explain to them politely what has happened and ask if there is anything that they can do for you. They may be able to give you a voucher or help in another way. The sooner you call, the better in this scenario. If you purchase the Flex ticket, you may want to consider getting a hotel and spending the night in St. Louis and then trying again tomorrow. Yes, there will be extra expenses and time, and yes, you won't necessarily have a change of clothes or toiletries with you, but try to adapt to the circumstances. I once saw a bumper sticker that said, "Blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be bent out of shape." It's important when we're traveling to remember that things will happen, no matter how well that you plan, that will cause your plans to change somewhat. The more you're able to roll with the changes, the happier you'll be, and the better your adventures will be, even if they're different than the way that you were thinking that they would go. Life is a great adventure, so hold on to your plans loosely and learn to adapt to the changes along the way. Now, we've talked about purchasing your Amtrak tickets, so now let's talk about the Gateway Arch tickets. For your tickets to go up into the arch, you can purchase those online at gatewayarch.com. The tickets are for timed entry, so this will take a little planning. Generally speaking, there should be plenty of availability, but I would look at the website a few days ahead of your planned visit and ensure that there are plenty of available times during your window. My recommendation is to look for a time in the 2 o'clock to 3:30 time frame. This gives you a little buffer if your train is running late to still make your planned time to the arch and have enough time to enjoy it before heading back to Chicago. Take into consideration what times you'll plan on eating. Eating on the train may be a good option because it allows you to do other things when you're not on the train. I would also plan for a half an hour to get from the train station to the arch and get through security and get into the building. If you choose to wait to eat until you're at the arch, there is a restaurant inside the building, as well as restrooms, a gift shop, and some exhibits that you can check out while you wait. Okay, now that we've got our tickets, let's talk about our day of travel. Our day starts by getting to either Union Station in downtown Chicago or Joliet Station early in the morning. If you're taking public transportation to Union Station, I recommend going to the Clinton stop, which is located on the Blue Line just west of the downtown loop. From the Clinton stop, you can walk 2 blocks northbound on South Clinton Street to reach Union Station, which is where the Amtrak trains arrive and depart. I've put links into the description of this video for both the Chicago Union Station website as well as the Chicago Transit Authority or CTA website so that you can do your own research before arriving. Once inside the station, look for the hallway that leads to all trains. Follow signs for Amtrak and look for video boards which would have train information on them, as well as a customer service counter. They can direct you to which track your train will depart from and where you can wait. If you're leaving from Joliet, I use the Parkopedia app to find parking at the train station, and that app is available in the Apple App Store or in the Google Play Store. When they make the announcement that it is time to board, make your way to the train. And I always recommend double checking with the conductor as you board the train to ensure that you're getting on the correct train. Once on board, find your seat and settle in for your ride to St. Louis. As a side note, one of the stops along the way to St. Louis is Springfield, Illinois, which is the capital of Illinois. Now, I did not get off the train here, but I did add it to the list of places that I would like to visit in my lifetime. Our 16th president, Abraham Lincoln, began his legal and political career here, and you can visit his home and get a free tour. There is a link in the description to the Lincoln Home National Historic Site, which is operated by the National Park Service. Additionally, the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum is located here, as is his gravesite. There are many other things to see and do while visiting Springfield, and I've put a link in the description to the Visit Springfield, Illinois website. Personally, I think it's a place you should consider planning a trip to sometime, and I think it will be worth visiting. Okay, as we make our way into St. Louis, you will see the famous St. Louis Gateway Arch. I was able to see it for the first time in 1984 when my cousin got married not far from here, but I didn't get to go up into the arch, which I've always wanted to do. After you arrive at the train station in St. Louis, you have a couple of options for getting to the arch. You can take public transportation, which is what I did, as well as a taxi or a rideshare. Now, while I did public transportation, as I've thought about it, I honestly think a rideshare or a taxi would be more direct with less walking and would also be less expensive, especially if there's more than one of you. Now, let's discuss the process of going up into the arch. Depending upon how busy it is on the day of your visit, I would plan for the whole process of going up into the arch to last between 60 and 90 minutes from when you first get in line until you're back down on ground level. Weekends will be busier than weekdays, and summertime will be busier than the cooler months. But you can get a feel for how busy it will be just by going to the website and looking at available ticket times on the day that you're planning to visit. At your appointed time, you will start in a hallway full of people. One thing to note is that there are not restrooms available in the line or at the top of the arch. So be sure to visit the restroom before you get into this line. Once in line, you will slowly make your way forward until you get to the pods that will take you up into the arch. You will be assigned a pod, and there are 5 seats available in each pod. These are small pods, and the seating is tight. If you're claustrophobic, you may be uncomfortable inside the pod. There is a pod on the ground floor which you can check out to see how it makes you feel if you would like. Once all of the guests are inside, the elevator doors will close, and you will begin your 4-minute ascent to the top of the arch. When you arrive at the top, you will walk up some stairs and then have about 10 minutes to explore before you'll head back down. The amount of time at the top is determined by the amount of time that it will take for the group before you to load into the pods that you came up in and then be taken down and a new group to load and be brought up. When it's time for you to leave, you will ride down in the same pod that you rode up in along the same people in that pod that you rode up with. Once you're back on ground level, there are restrooms and food options available right inside the building, as well as other exhibits to see before venturing back outside. As you can see, I had plenty of time to take pictures both before and after my visit up into the arch. Okay, now that you're done visiting the arch and you've got some more time to kill before heading back to Chicago, what are some other things that you can do in St. Louis? Well, I'm glad you asked. There are lots of things to do in the downtown St. Louis area that aren't that far apart. Several things are walkable, while a couple of other things will require a short Uber or Lyft ride. Let's start right with the Old Courthouse, which is right across the street from the Gateway Arch National Park. The Old Courthouse was the site of the Dred Scott case in the mid-1800s. It was also where Virginia Minor's case for a woman's right to vote came to trial in the 1870s. It was last used as a courthouse in 1930, and the city gave it to the National Park Service in 1940. The courthouse is free to visit, and it includes 4 new museum galleries, which opened up in May of 2025, as well as the restored historic courtrooms. After you visit the Old Courthouse, Busch Stadium is an easy walk from the arch. Here you can see where the St. Louis Cardinals play baseball. If you're staying a little bit longer and it's during the summer months and the Cards are in town, consider purchasing tickets to a Major League Baseball game. This is kind of a big deal, especially for those of us who don't have a Major League team where we live. If the Cardinals are not in town, you could always do a stadium tour here as well. Next up is Citygarden Sculpture Park, which is just a 2-block walk from Busch Stadium. This is a free attraction which has over 24 sculptures to see, as well as 2 water exhibits and a children's spray and play area, where the kids can get wet and cool off during the warmer months between Memorial Day and Labor Day. Be sure to bring a change of clothes for the kids if you're considering this option. Another option, which may be pushing it a bit if you're only here for a day trip, but certainly something worth checking out if you've got some time or are staying longer in the St. Louis area, and that is Forest Park. Forest Park is about a 15 to 20 minute Uber ride away from Union Station. The park is massive and there are so many things to see and do here. To give you a scope of its size, Forest Park is approximately 1,300 acres, whereas Central Park in New York City only has about 850 acres. So Forest Park has about 500 more acres than Central Park in New York City. There are tons of attractions in Forest Park and many are free. Let's start with the free stuff. The St. Louis Zoo is free to visit, and it is considered to be one of the best zoos in the country. Most of the free attractions in Forest Park, including the zoo, also offer paid attractions or exhibits. Some examples of paid attractions that you can experience while visiting the zoo include the 4D Theater, a sea lion show. You can experience the stingrays at Caribbean Cove, and you can also ride the Zoo Line Railroad if your trip on Amtrak wasn't enough train travel. Lots of great options here for the whole family, so check the website out in the description for hours of operation which vary by season, as well as pricing for various activities. The next free attraction at Forest Park is the St. Louis Science Center. There are 3 levels of interactive exhibits here, and like the zoo, there are some paid attractions as well. One of those attractions include the shows which are at the McDonnell Planetarium. These are educational and informative for the whole family, and you can learn more about all the offerings at the Science Center and the Planetarium on their website. The St. Louis Art Museum, or SLAM, is also free, and it has a large collection of art on display for all to see. The next attraction is the Missouri History Museum. Come and learn all about the history of St. Louis and the state of Missouri. The World's Fair Pavilion is a free, open-air public shelter that was built using funds from the 1904 World's Fair. Moving on to some paid attractions, the Jewel Box is a large outdoor greenhouse located in Forest Park. It is free on Mondays and Tuesdays between 9 a.m. and 12 noon, but at other times, admission is only $1, so go check it out. The Muni is a large outdoor performance amphitheater which features Broadway plays during the summer. If you like outdoor activities, Forest Park is a great place for those. There are miles of walking and biking trails, and you can rent a bike at the boathouse. There are many places to enjoy sports: baseball fields, basketball courts, racquetball and handball courts, a golf course, tennis courts, and an ice skating rink during the wintertime. In the summer, you can also rent paddle boats, canoes, kayaks, stand-up paddle boards, as well as bikes from the boathouse. There are just so many options all in one great place. Moving out of Forest Park, another way to spend your time while in St. Louis is to visit the Anheuser-Busch Budweiser Brewery Tour. Again, see the link in the description for this, but from the Gateway Arch, it's only about a 10-minute car ride, so you'll probably want to take an Uber or a Lyft to the Anheuser-Busch Brewery, which is located at 1200 Lynch Street. There are a couple of different tours that you can take here. Some are free, while others have a cost associated with them. They even have a tour that includes the Clydesdale VIP experience, so check out the brewery and all that it has to offer. Another option to consider is the Missouri Botanical Garden. The website has the information about the hours, prices, and all that there is to see and do here. But one of the things that I would want to see here would be the large geodesic conservatory called the Climatron and also the Arid house. Other things to see and do here include an exploration center, a narrated tram tour if you're visiting between April and October, and a Japanese garden. There is so much to see and do in St. Louis that we won't be able to cover it all in one video. One of the points of this video is to get you to St. Louis so that you can then see and do all that there is to see and do here. In fact, as I was researching for this video, especially for Forest Park, it made me want to go back to Chicago and then take the train south, stopping for a little while in Springfield and then continuing on to St. Louis to visit the gateway city for an extended time. Now, before I get too carried away in our visit to St. Louis, we also have to start thinking about heading back to the train station for our return to the windy city of Chicago. But before we do that, I wanted to talk a little bit about safety. As always, anytime that you're traveling, whether that is in Chicago or St. Louis or any other large city, please take appropriate safety precautions. Always be aware of your surroundings, especially in crowds and in larger cities. Limit the use of headphones or cell phones while waiting, which may distract you from being fully aware of your surroundings. Travel in groups whenever possible, and travel with minimal valuables, keeping them secured and out of sight as much as possible. Additionally, consider what time of day you'll be traveling and the time of year. For example, 5:40 p.m. will usually be light outside during the summertime, but dark during the winter months. I just want everyone to be safe while traveling so you can have the most enjoyable visit possible. Now, when it's time to head back to Union Station for your return trip to Chicago, try to arrive 30 to 45 minutes prior to your scheduled departure time. 5 o'clock is probably a good target time if your train is leaving at 5:40 p.m. If the weather isn't good, or if you just have some extra time to spend at the train station, I wanted to tell you about some options that I didn't even know about during my visit, and I wish that I would have known because I totally would have done this. Right inside of Union Station, there is the St. Louis Aquarium. Now, unfortunately, this isn't a free attraction like so many things at Forest Park, but this is an excellent attraction, and it's also convenient to the train station. At the time that this video was recorded, the aquarium was open from 9 a.m. until 7 p.m. every day, and you should plan to spend between 1 and 3 hours here. And the aquarium isn't the only thing to do in Union Station. If you go to the St. Louis Union Station website in the description, you can see other attractions available with lots of things to do, including a big Ferris wheel, a ropes course, a mini golf course, a mirror maze, a carousel or a merry-go-round, a train-themed walkthrough attraction called the Selfie Express, where you can walk through and take some selfies either by yourself or with your family or friends. There's also a Polar Express train ride if the ride on Amtrak isn't enough for you. And if you're staying a little bit later into the evenings, there's a light show in the grand hallway of Union Station, a hotel where you can spend the night, along with several restaurants. I mean, you could make Union Station a destination all of its own. In fact, maybe I should have made this video into a weekend trip to St. Louis rather than just a day trip. Be sure to see the website for hours and pricing for each of these attractions, and know that there are some combo packages which are available which can help you save money on multiple attractions. You have an advantage in going to St. Louis that I didn't have. You have this video to watch, and I thank you for taking the time to watch it. Speaking of, if you appreciate all of the options that I've listed for things to do while visiting St. Louis, I would appreciate it if you would hit the thumbs up and give this video a like. Also, feel free to leave a comment. I do read all of the comments and try to respond to as many as I can. If you like the content that I'm creating for this channel and want to see more, please consider subscribing to my channel and sharing this video with your family and friends. Once you're back on board the train, as you depart the city of St. Louis on your journey back to Chicago, be sure to get some evening pictures of the arch. Then, sit back and rest from your adventures in the Gateway City. If you're going all the way back to Union Station in Chicago and have to take the CTA train to get home, be careful walking from Union Station to the CTA Clinton stop. I hope you've enjoyed our day trip from Chicago to St. Louis. Thank you so much for watching, and let's make life a great adventure. Coming soon on the Great Adventurer channel. On today's episode, we're taking an epic journey from Raleigh, North Carolina, all the way across the country to Los Angeles, California on Amtrak. All aboard. Our journey begins here at Raleigh's Union Station, and I'm dividing this trip into 3 segments, just like I'll do the videos. So for the first video, it's going to be from Raleigh to I'm trying to shoot a video. Could y'all be quiet? My train journey begins right here in Raleigh. My train journey begins right here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'll